For many white-collar employees, work from home has become part of the new normal since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the research and consulting company Gartner, 51% of all knowledge workers globally will be working remotely by the end of this year. That's almost twice the number pre-pandemic. And this change in workflow has rippled across the property sector. With fewer people working in the central business district, the price gap between central and fringe area offices has narrowed. However, the URA data also shows that CBD rents have remained resilient, although there are now fewer office workers in the prime areas. Rentals have not fallen in line with rising vacancy rates.
We see after pandemic, both the central area and outside central area, the fringe area, the rental goes down by about 10% and now recovered. And now it's somewhat about 4% below the pre-pandemic area.
JLL data also show office rentals are picking up after falling 9.5% over 5 quarters.
Singapore's Grade A CBD office rent bottomed in the first quarter of this year, and they started to edge up in the second quarter of this year. By third quarter of this year, the rent had recovered by 2.7%. This is actually very mild compared to during the global financial crisis, where Grade A CBD rents fell nearly 57%. So we attribute this resilience of the current office leasing market to how demand for Singapore as an office location has become so much more diverse, robust, and tenacious compared to a decade ago.
And this is not just happening in Singapore. According to JLL, CBD rentals are staying resilient across Asia and the world.
At the outset of the pandemic, in actual fact, some of those core CBD areas, core offices, the rents took a greater hit than they did elsewhere. At the same time, what we've seen is those rents rebounding back quite quickly, more so than we've seen in fringe areas. So the reality is where we're at now, sort of 18 months on, we've seen rents in those core CBD offices holding up in general much better than we've seen them hold up in fringe areas.
In 3 surveys in the last 18 months, the property consultancy found that the office is becoming even more important now as the center of the work ecosystem. These findings are confirmed by other industry observers.
There is a sentiment, growing sentiment among the tenants, like there is a demand to come back to the office. The one that's driving them is just like the lack of space at home. But at the same time too, this is interesting, is the social side, right? We are social animals. We like going out. The office for many of us, provide us that social aspect as well. And you can't have that kind of environment by working from home completely.
There are other factors driving a recovery in the CBD office market.
Demand for office space now is very broad-based compared to a decade ago, where it is more focused on finance. That will help to strengthen demand for office space. What is going to push demand further will really be the fact that Singapore is now very, very attractive to tech companies. And the government continues to introduce initiatives and policies to lure even more tech firms and startups to be based in Singapore.
JLL expects prime-grade office rents to grow 25 to 30% by 2025.
Better quality and newer office assets are more sought after than others. And this has got to do with that growing emphasis on sustainable workplaces and the heightened importance that companies are placing on employees' wellness and health arising from the pandemic.
Flexible office space will continue to play an important role in this office ecosystem.
Our region, by the way, we boast the highest rents, among the highest rents in the world, right? So having the option to use this flexible co-working spaces allows us to manage that, right? So we don't have to have that risk of committing to always like these high rents, capital expenditures. For small operations, you don't need that. And you cannot afford.
Flexible space provider WeWork has pivoted its business model to adapt to the new realities brought by the pandemic.
We have tweaked our products. All access and on-demand have short-term or monthly subscriptions. And then there's also a design way of adapting. The design, it's important to keep it flexible. Some companies, for instance, a major pharmaceutical we worked with, immediately upon the pandemic starting, they increased the number of square feet per person that they wanted from around 70 to 80 to 100 plus square feet per person. So they immediately actually wanted more space. Other companies want less space or still fine. They're going to do team A, team B. It just depends. So we need to be flexible to meet the needs.